Okay, so Midjourney, what do you think about it? Because if I recall correctly, the out-zooming thing, didn't you think that was a big thing? Or
no, it made everything quite confusing, I would say. I think it's better. How I do it is that I craft images in Midjourney, and if I want to do zoom outs, or if I want to, add something to the left or the right side, I use the generative fill within Photoshop. That tool is much more precise. Yeah. Whereas Midjourney is sort of recrafting the whole image in another way, and you still get the same resolution. So it's not like a zoom out. You don't get more pixels. You zoom in. So in order to sort of upscale it through that function, it's no.
Do you use Photoshop a lot, or have you tried?
No, all the time.
All the time. Do you use Firefly as well, or?
No, I think Firefly is. I don't know. It's not.
Why?
I think it's very interesting to see how different models are trained, and I think the strength within Stable Diffusion and Midjourney is that they have sort of hoarded a lot of images that large companies as Adobe can't. So I think in the end, sort of what you're crafting in Firefly looks like stock photo image, more or less.
And I guess Midjourney then have taken all the images they can, and that's why they get sued, I guess.
Exactly. There are some interesting articles way back when they were really like open of how they were training their models, and you can really see, like right now, like how that is a quite sensitive subject. I think that they maybe not anticipated back then. So,
which one do you think is the best image generator? By the way, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E 3?
Not DALL-E 3. DALL-E 3 is so overhyped, I must say. But I mean, it all depends on what you're looking for. I think DALL-E 3 has enabled now that they can generate text, which is like super cool, which Midjourney and Stable Diffusion don't. But I would say Stable Diffusion, since it's sort of like the mother of all these different softwares, but also that Stable Diffusion is
isn't DALL-E 2, by the way, the mother, or what?
Maybe it is. I know. I think Midjourney is based on Stable Diffusion. I think that was the thing. No, but I think that since Stable Diffusion is an open source, it makes.
But then we had what was the other, Blue Sky and whatnot? Do you use that?
No.
But then Midjourney, of course, is that the best one, you would say?
I would say that Midjourney is by far the best one.
By far.
I know that the founder, David Holtz, agrees on that also. He has these weekly talks, and he's very proud of his tool, and I think he should be, actually. But I mean, we have interesting upcomers. I would say that Leonardo isn't as talked about as it actually should be. It's really, really good. It's very based on Stable Diffusion. So if you know Stable Diffusion, there's no sort of reason to work with Leonardo. But if you're not if you don't feel that Stable Diffusion is as user-friendly as you wish, Leonardo is sort of the user-friendly version of it.
So you don't use...
And you can do model trainings and so.
Yeah. Okay, but Midjourney, then you mentioned something. They released some new feature recently, wasn't?
Exactly. So they released these upscalers. So it's the double and it's the quattro upscaler.
So for whatever image it generates, you can simply click and have it double or 4 times the resolution.
Exactly. But it costs quite a lot since Midjourney is charging you by sort of the GPU amount. The X4 images, they cost quite a lot. So you need to really fill up your bank account if you're going to use that.
I was, really hyped about the zoom out functionality in Midjourney, but you say you don't think that's as a big deal?
No, I think 2 reasons there, especially. One is that you lose resolution since it's only crafting a new image within the same sort of pixels.
Yeah, so it's the same resolution, just zoomed out.
Exactly. And then also you don't have that much of a control, I would say. Then Photoshop is much more, tailored, since you can use generative fill and really write what you sort of want to happen, left or right or up and down.
What do they use underneath?
I don't know. Actually.
But how much more generative do you think Photoshop has become the last couple of
No, I mean a lot. I mean, it's
that they
crazy.
really also stepped up the generative game.
I mean, I think it was in May they released the generative fill, and from there on they have had this like hyper focus and hyper speed on AI. I mean, before that I was thinking that maybe Adobe's days are over, but
they're responding well,
apparently not.
I mean, because they had machine learning for years, of course, in relation to their normal algorithms they need for Photoshop. But now we're talking the generative dimension,
exactly,
and they've been going hard to get it in.
Really hard. And I would say
successfully hard.
Yeah, and I think Photoshop is one part, but I work also with film and animation, and just looking at how Premiere, for example, now has these wonderful AI tools.
So the whole Adobe suite,
features.
the whole Adobe suite is called something. Adobe
Creative Cloud.
Creative Cloud.
Exactly. And I mean now Illustrator with vector, you can prompt vector. I mean, it's mind.
You
can
generate the vector image. Right?
Yes, I've done it. It's so cool. You can just write like a cat is riding on a rocket.
This is the perfect logo generator.
Yeah, no,
a vectorized logo in prompting.
Yeah. And that's interesting because Midjourney has been really bad at creating sort of graphics, trying to make like logos or profiles. That has been useless in Midjourney. So here I think Illustrator, if they get it right, will have a huge advantage.
So and the vector Gen AI, vector graphic Gen AI.
There will be a lot of like sub brands here.
Why was it so interesting for you for the upscaling functionality? Is it just to have high quality images and it's useful for you, or what?
No, but I think the thing is that when Midjourney has been talking about the new upscale, they have been talking about that they're going to do it in a completely new way. I mean, traditional upscaling, if you look like way back, then it's just repeating pixels. So I mean, nothing really happens. But then Photoshop a couple of years ago, I think, added this version in their scaling tool, which had some sort of AI in it. So it sort of added more pixels in order to get it more sharp. But then new tools arrived. For example, I think the biggest player is Topaz. They have this tool, Gigapixel. And what Gigapixel does is that it doesn't upscale in a traditional meaning by repeating pixels. It's adding new pixels. So it's sort of crafting a whole new image. But that leaves a lot of like artifacts that you then need to go in and retouch. But I mean, it basically can take an image and enlarge it eight times, and it looks really, really good. So I think when Midjourney said that they were going to release this upscaler, I think the whole community was so hyped about it because they said that they were going to do it in a completely new way, not as Adobe or Topaz, like new way. And what they do, if I understand it correctly, is that they take the picture and they send it back and they let the AI upscale it once more. So I was like super excited that, okay, now we're going to get these super crisp photorealistic pictures. And they are good, but unfortunately Topaz is better still. So.
But I want to get straight into the conversation now and start with the proper introduction of you, Carl-Axel Wahlström. And I find it so cool. Creative director turned AI artist turned co-founder of the first ever AI fashion magazine. That is a cool journey. And we're going to talk about AI augmented creativity, going into what is an AI artist and, how does an AI artist live and breathe and work. It's going to be so much fun. But I'm actually curious in the first steps, what is the journey from creative director to AI artist? What is the backdrop here of your journey? And what is the backdrop of coming out with doing the magazine?
So I think I studied advertising at a school here in Stockholm called Bergs. High School of Communication, and I studied art direction. This was 2004 to 2006. So when I sort of entered the advertising agencies 2006, we were in the shift between analog photography and digital photography, which was really interesting. The large campaigns with the grand budgets, they did it on medium format analog film because they had it, the money. But then the agencies and us art directors sort of realized that with digital photography, we can achieve great quality with a low budget. So I was sort of part of that whole transition from analog to digital, and it really inspired me, and it gave me more freedom as a creative, because even though I sort of look at the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s advertising world as something glamorous, you did, because of the budget, just a couple of campaigns a year, because you didn't have the sort of the resources. But what happened sort of around 2010 is that the pace just picked up, and sort of everybody started producing more. So I've been sort of part of that journey, and I've been exploring how we can achieve more creativity with new tools.
The whole way through the career.
No, exactly. So it's been a strong part of my DNA as a creative, and I was really early with YouTube, which sounds really sort of weird saying now, since I mean YouTube is a part of everybody's life. But back then, 2007, 2008, we started doing like these small campaigns for different brands on YouTube, and back then that was quite like unique and edgy. Exactly. If you got like 1,000 views, you could sort of brag to the client that people has seen this campaign. But I think in Sweden, I think here in the Nordic countries, we have been celebrating young creatives a lot. Apart from like the US, and I mean, even if you just go to London or Paris, older art directors are seen as something interesting, and that's something that can sort of give something to the project. Whereas in Sweden, we have this sort of need for new talents all the time. So working within the advertising industry, I've always felt, almost like a soccer player, that sort of my career will end soon. I'm only interested, until I get 40 or 50.
Would you argue there is some sort of age discrimination going on in Stockholm?
No. Not argue, that's a fact.
It's a fact, right? Would you argue it's higher in Stockholm than other places?
I think so. I think this is like the peak of discrimination towards old creatives, which is so sad, because for me at least, being a good creative or a good craftsman is knowledge, knowing a lot about everything and putting all these interesting thoughts into something creative. And I think that collaborating with young creatives is super interesting, but building agencies and campaigns only on old creators or young creators, I think that's sort of.
I say diversity is probably the most interesting, and if you can get it to work.
Yeah, no,
but
sure.
And when is now the path to actually put AI artist on your LinkedIn resume? Like, what's the difference here? What's happening here?
No, exactly. So I'm 41 now. Yeah, I'm 41 now. So I
feel very young.
Very young.
Yeah, or old. It depends. No, but I think that. Okay, so 1.5 years ago back, in the spring of 2022, I realized that generative AI is a very interesting thing, and I started working with Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. And back then, these softwares was really like weird. You couldn't really create anything that sort of looked like anything. It was more of a lab testing, but I could see the potential in it, and so I just felt just a strong connections toward these tools, because I think I'm that type of creator that want to produce a lot. Like I'm more driven by creating 10 campaigns in 10 weeks than one campaign in 10 weeks. So sort of quantity and quality, but a lot of quantity.
but because your mentality is to be productive. Is
for sure
is part of your DNA.
Exactly. And I think that what sort of the traditional working space is based on is budget and resources. So if you love photography as I do, you can only produce, X amount of campaigns in X amount of time. But with generative AI, I sort of realized that here I can just create how much I want in the pace I want. I don't have to collaborate with anyone. I don't have to have any budgets. I just need myself and my softwares in my own universe. So that feeling and that realization was so compelling. So I just felt that I need to sort of put my mind into this, learn it the best I can, and then just hope for it to be something. Because when I fell in love with generative AI, no one was talking about it. Like
it was really before the real hit, the really mega hype came a little bit later.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I had like 6-7 months with just me and the AI. I showed it to different customers and the clients, and I work mostly with the different fashion brands. And everybody was, it was a lot of laugh. People thought it was funky, cool, interesting, but nothing that would ever be something, I think. I was really convinced that this is the future. But back then...
what year is this approximately?
Sorry?
What year is this?
No, so this is, I would say, a year ago. Yeah, autumn 2022. So I mean, it's still really, close to where we are now, but it feels like a 10 years.
But if you go now, if you take Midjourney as an example, from 2 to 4 or something like that, there's some major differences in photorealism and stuff like that has happened here, right?
Exactly.
How would you describe that?
No, I think so. Evolution? Yeah, exactly. So what I did, and I think also why the clients sort of didn't really hook on this generative AI thing, was that everything looked like realistic AI airbrush art in the beginning. Yeah. It was really polished plastic, so I think the whole aesthetic was sort of against it. But then, as you say, this was, if you talk specifically about Midjourney, this was Midjourney version 4. And then in March this year, 2023, they released, I think it was 15th of March, they released the version 5. And that version sort of made everybody talking about AI. And it completely changed me also as a
Is it the
creative.
Photorealism that really changed the game here?
I would say that.
I would say this is now a creative artist's tool for real.
Yes, for sure. I mean, you can just look at sort of the users in Midjourney. I don't have the exact amount of users, but I think they went from a couple of million to 10, 20, 35, 100 million users within just a couple of months. So I think it was as shocking to them also, because they were really convinced that they had a great tool before that. I mean, if you listen to podcasts with David Holtz, who's the founder, he's super excited about Midjourney a year ago back. So I also think it was quite interesting that these developers didn't realize that the realistic sort of
the power of that to really replace
exactly. But to answer your question, in March, 14 million users on Discord in August. Yeah, wow. No, but I think to answer your question, how I sort of went from creative director to AI artist was sort of in that time in March 2023, because that was sort of the realization that this is the future. My gut feeling was right, and that there's no going back. So what I actually thought that same day was that every art director and every creative in the world is sitting by their computers right now working with these tools, and this is a competition, almost like when the Soviet and the US wanted to reach the moon the fastest. I felt so strongly for these tools, and I was so convinced that everybody else was also. So I just had to do something, and then I have made fashion magazines before, so I know how to craft them, but I know how to craft them in a traditional way. And what I could sort of translate quite easily here was how much faster and also the business side. I mean, I could create much more photography with a lower budget.
So what is an AI fashion magazine?
Exactly. So I think I had to sort of title it somehow, and I've given it the fashion magazine title. But you could argue that, you could say that it's a photo magazine also. But I think fashion is very interesting, because what differentiates fashion from all other industries is that fashion is evolving constantly. And with AI, I think it has sort of the same driving forces to sort of reinvent itself all the time. So I can really see that connection with the fashion industry and sort of the AI tools.
But I totally got it. I mean, like the backdrop anecdote we talked about it before. I had a friend like back in Borås in normal school. She went into a career as a photographer. She went to school in London. And then she's gone down a path, 15, 20 years, where she's been working exclusively as a photographer with very artistic brands and artistic photo shoots. So when I saw Copy Magazine, it reminded me of those niche brands and that kind of quite niched world in fashion where this is happening. And I think you said it, like there is a community or a genre that is sort of growing out of London and Paris. And there's some major examples of these magazines. Could you name a few? You said one.
No, I think the most iconic one is called Egoist. It's a French fashion magazine. It's really, really old. They were really interesting in that sense that they didn't take any advertisers. They made advertising in their magazine. So if you wanted to advertise, then Egoist did it themselves. Groundbreaking.
Egoist, and then
you have self-service, which is
self-service
also like
and
super
Egoist
iconic.
is like so. Would you say this is a little bit
in the same
vein,
yes.
Inspired by, or I can do my own Egoist? What about, was that part of the process, or is it more how it came out, or did you have that idea?
No, exactly. I would say that it's very close to those magazines in one sense, but then it's also the opposite in the other end, because what those magazines often are about is the relationship and the close bond with the fashion brands, because fashion is very much about creating alliances between the editorial and the advertising. Yeah. For example, if you want to have an advertiser in a fashion magazine, then you have to put their clothes in the editorial space. Whereas AI fashion is not connected to any physical brands, and sort of clothes prompted within the images aren't from any real brands. So I can't build those relationships with the fashion industry, and I don't want to either. So I'm very connected, but I'm still very, very far away, because all those magazines, which I admire a lot, they are so connected to the fashion industry.
So how is a magazine like this created? Can you go through the process?
A lot of hours.
Jumping straight into that.
You want to have something?
I mean, like I'm still circling into it. So because I'm so amazed. I mean, like before we go in there, so how would you then describe what was the goal, or what was the objective of making Copy Magazine? What were you trying to achieve, or what was this all about?
Yeah, so I think I wanted to sort of convince companies and brands that I work with that AI technology is here to stay, that it's amazing, that it opens up new possibility, that is, I have said it many times, and I think it democratizes creativity within the fashion world, because now it can, you can come from anywhere and you can actually make something that is beautiful and that people can't resist, whether that was a question of budget and resources.
So you really wanted to showcase?
I really wanted to showcase, but I also had a very sort of personal mission, and that was to be the first.
That's
and
a great goal.
Yeah, and it worried me so much. So as I said before, like I was so convinced that everybody was doing it, and now I realize that people still hasn't started doing it. But I Googled the world's first fashion magazine from when I started creating this issue in March this year all the way until July. And I thought every single day that I would get like a Google search that, okay, now these persons have made it, or now that publishing company has made it. But I mean, I'm still the only one.
But this is a proper coffee table book. This is a proper way of also presenting yourself, having a copy of this, like, you know, egoist. There's a person, there's the identity of a people who are interested in this stuff, and they read Egoist, and this belongs on their table. You said it right. You have three major target groups. You sorted out the fashion people, the photographers, and of course the AI community loves it as well.
Yes.
Cool. But now I think so. That's the sort of framing, and this backdrop gives us the main theme for this pod is really to explore. You said it, democratization of creativity is one nice way of putting it. We put it AI artistry, the future of AI augmented creativity. So let's just go nuts on this theme, and with that sort of entry point into the theme, let's start with Anders' question. How do you make this magazine with AI? Like, you know, how would you start describing that? Because we're going to go deep.
It looks amazing, by the way.
Cool.
I just looked through the pictures. It looks really good.
And it's also, I would say that many people think that creating images in AI is sort of just prompting, and then if you like it, you put it into print. But there's a very long way.
I can imagine.
It's a good thing we have a long format podcast, because I really want to dig into that.
Yes.
So please tell us everything.
Everything.
All the secret sauce.
Exactly. No, but I think that, I mean, we have to actually start with, I think, what's the basis and what's most interesting with AI or generative AI, I should say, and synthetic creativity is that you have the technical side with the prompting, and then you have how to also sort of enhance, enlarge, sharpen, retouch the images. But before that, you need to know something, because you need to actually put text in order to get an image, or you can actually upload an image. But I have never done that. I think that's cheating.
You're prompting.
I am prompting. I'm a hardcore prompter. I would never upload an image.
I'd love to hear your prompting techniques, but we'll save that for later.
Yeah, exactly. No, but so I think firsthand, you need to understand how the models are trained within these different softwares. And if you are working with Midjourney, they have sort of their model. You can't like choose different models. You can choose different versions, but you have like the 5.1 or 5.2 models. If you, in the other hand, work in Stable Diffusion, because I go back and forth between these two tools. In Stable Diffusion, you have how many models you wish. You can train your own models, or you can use existing models. But you have to understand the model that you're going to work with. And if we talk about Midjourney, because I think that's sort of the easiest way. Yeah, the 5.0. First off, just write random words to sort of see what happens. But then try to, and I think this is very important, if you want to create something that is interesting, don't create something that we have already seen. So, for example, don't prompt typical keywords describing Barbie, for example, because you will only get a replica of Barbie. Right. But you can get something really, really interesting if you prompt some keywords related to Barbie, like a blonde girl, she's a doll. I never like prompt words that could be copyrighted. So I would never like write Barbie. I would describe Barbie. That works much better. But then also try to imagine what could be interesting in contrast to Barbie, for example. So I have never tried this, but for example, like if you would be inspired by a death metal band, for example, that could be quite interesting to see what happens with the Barbie world and with the death metal scene, and to sort of combine these two worlds. So actually one series that I'm working on right now for the upcoming issue, the issue 2 of Copy, is actually, I've been inspired by Marie Antoinette, this old French queen, and I am making her playing American football. And this is a very complex story to make, because it's not it's nothing that is sort of default within Midjourney. So if I just write like Marie Antoinette playing NFL soccer, then I will either get Marie Antoinette or NFL soccer. So I have to sort of imagine, and I have to figure out different keywords that describe American football and that describe sort of a royal queen in France. And then I have to consider the hierarchy that you have in prompting, because there are these sort of wizards and these professionals that make a lot of money right now, sort of selling prompt tips and lessons and courses.
The YouTube goes ballistic on the prompting.
Exactly. Clips. And they just write lines and lines and lines and words and words and words. But then when you look at, because you can actually ask Midjourney, for example, what have you been sort of listening to? Like which words has made an impact into the image? You can see that, exactly. You can see that it's just like 2, 3, 5, 6 different words.
So some kind of explainability functionality.
Exactly. So you can see in percent. And Midjourney can also give you suggestions on sort of how to get it better if you sort of delete.
So you can work on so many layers with your prompting, because first you have the creativity in your prompting. That is an art in itself. Then is to work with understanding how you can use Midjourney for explainability to understand what did you actually pick up on. And now the last bit you also said here is like... you can get suggestions even.
Exactly.
Where to take it.
Yeah.
So there are layers and layers.
Super many layers, and it's also so much about where, like, the order where the words come. So in the beginning with generative AI, it was more based. So the language models were more trained on just words, but then Midjourney tried to sort of make the language models within Midjourney reading sort of sentences more. I thought that was just confusing in the way that I think keywords is better if you want to get the exact result. I mean, for example, many different words that is very clear to us isn't clear to the AI. For example, if you are prompting like old and model, you will probably get an old model. But if you are prompting old model fashion, then you will probably get a young model that's wearing old fashion. So depending
Semantics.
on where the words are and sort of the hierarchy, you get totally different results. So it's a lot of just man hours, just sitting, flipping words back and forth, and in the end, like after a couple of 1,000 hours, you know more or less, before you even prompt how you can write it in a way.
How many prompts do you normally write before you're satisfied with them?
No, it can be 500 to 1,000.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of prompts.
You're tweaking.
That's tweaking included. I often start with just writing many different prompts.
What's your creative process? Like, you're going to come up with a concept now, Marie Antoinette and football. So what is the creative process around that? How do you build that up from scratch?
No, I think the best way is actually to start with few words and then to add words. And then to so sort of add and take away.
Is it sentences or use keywords?
No, words.
Use words?
Yeah, only words.
So not grammatically correct
no,
at all?
No. Sometimes it's quite interesting because I have like bad typing or misspelling, but the end result is better than if I would to sort of spell it right. But I mean, it is in a sense very confusing, but in another way, not so confusing. You have to know that some words will take a lot of attraction. So, for example, if you were to prompt a decade like the 90s or the 70s, that word will have an impact on everything. It will have an impact on the style, on the model, on the haircut, on the fashion, on the background, on the sceneries. Whereas if you have a word that sort of, if you were to prompt modern or future, that would be a little bit harder because you have to understand that the models are trained on old material. So the AI works best if you are prompting something that that it has a lot of data around. If you want to create fashion that is here and now, it's really, really hard for the AI to sort of capture.
I must ask, I haven't used Midjourney for some time, but in normal ChatGPT, when you just produce text, you can have follow-up questions, say that wasn't the right one, please speak in this way instead, or have this length and whatnot. Can you modify?
Sorry, no.
Wouldn't that be super useful?
It would be super cool. I would really love that.
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
So the interactive mode in Midjourney is slightly different than ChatGPT in this sense, because you use continue prompting keywords.
Exactly. You can now do like in paint. And within the in paint, if you have the remix mode on, then you can actually add new text. But it's not the same thing as you sort of rephrase this, that, and that. Because it's a lot of like copy paste, and then just do changes all the time.
Because you're having a conversation with ChatGPT in this sense.
Yeah.
Much more of a dialogue. Here it seems like starting from scratch more or less every time.
It is. And it's I must say, it's so random still. And I like to also prompt with, you have the prompting, and then you have sort of the commands, like what the version,
what's the difference between prompting and commands? If someone is not
exactly. So prompting is more, as I said before, like different keywords that is describing the image. But then you also have to have different values and different attributes. So for example, what model, what dimensions, like is it a 69 or 9 by 6 sizes of the image, exactly. Yeah. Then you have stylish, and stylish is from 1 to 1,000, depending on the model. It makes more or less difference.
What's the stylish?
So that's sort of the sort of, it's hard to describe, but it's sort of like the creative quality. Like for example, a normal value, if you want it to look realistic, is 100 to 150. So you can just imagine 350 or 650 or 1,000. So
it goes more or less bananas.
It goes, that's the other tool that I work with a lot, and that is actually cows. They have like a attribute for cows, and then you have from 0 to 100. And cows is amazing, because what cows does is that it gives you different results all the time.
All right.
And I would say a chaos value around 10 to 20 just adds creativity. If you push it up to 50 or 60, it becomes like really weird. But weird is good also sometimes. So
chaos is like a diversity setting.
Exactly.
So then you have the prompt, and then you have several different commands that sort of the chaos index tells you how bananas should you go weird with your creativity. One stylus goes like in a slightly different direction, and then you have commands which is more, how big and small, or what is the picture size or something like that. So this together, then you need to be able to master not only the prompting, but you need to have a quite good grasp of what happens with the model depending on the different commands you're using.
What is the normal length of a prompt? When you're finally satisfied with the image, how long approximately would you say the prompt turns out to be?
I would say a good prompt is between 10 to 15, 20
Not
words.
More?
No. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing. Sorry to be. But I think that like a lot of people who are getting to know Midjourney, they think, as I said before, like the more I write, the better it becomes, and that is because in sort of the open community and people who are selling prompts and stuff, they are just packed with different words, because people think that the more words I have, the more advanced it must be. But it's a completely different way. To be precise, it's what matters, and to be precise, what makes it into something that you can actually have control of. Because in the beginning, I was laughing a lot because the AI just misunderstood me all the time, and everything was just bananas. But then I realized that the less I write, the better it becomes.
But it becomes now becomes a dialogue between ChatGPT and Midjourney, that you want keywords. I mean, you're not really happy with the keywords, so you go into ChatGPT and get ideas for more different synonyms in Sharp, and then you try them. I mean, like
you could do that.
I could see how you can get stuck on
even
English.
in the latest ChatGPT with DALL-E 3, it's supposed to help you with the prompt into DALL-E 3. So you write in a normal, easy way to ChatGPT, and then it will produce another prompt to DALL-E 3. Do you think that's a good way forward?
I don't know. I think that I got in love with generative AI and image making because I think it's quite hard and it's quite difficult. And I like to do research. I don't do research with ChatGPT. I search on Google, for example. Like I search on different types of photography styles, technical, like what type of lens should I have? What type of impact will that have on the image? So I do more like traditional research. And I think that's much more, it gives...
When you say Google, you mean Google search, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that adds something to the image, because what these tools, sort of the risk here is that if everybody is using the same keywords, if everybody are asking ChatGPT and they get the same answers, you will actually get quite similar images, and you can see that already. That if you look at the images that is open, like everybody are basically writing the same thing and getting the same result. So you really have to sort of dig deep, look within yourself, your own sort of view of the world, and then try to write something that is unique to you.
One of my friends, Stefan Jakobsson, he's founder of a Brave agency, like an advertising agency, art director, and he was also been fiddling around quite a bit. And what he talked a lot about is like, actually, if you're a world-class photographer and you really knows your apertures, you know your lenses, you know the difference in bokeh of a Leica lens compared to a. So this is part of his prompting repertoire is to prompt which type of lens, which type of field of depth, all this. Is this what you're doing?
Correct.
As well?
Yeah. No, it makes a huge difference. And the interesting thing is, and this is just my sort of theory of why this is, because the models are trained. I mean, you upload an image and then you have some sort of text connected to that image. And then, for example, Midjourney has had billions of images, but they also have billions of text connected to the images. And so it's basically a lot of metadata, because you don't have people sort of writing exactly what's going on in the picture. And one thing that I think all images have, if they have been shot with the digital camera, is that they have the metadata of the lens, the camera model, the depth of field, and everything. So those factors make a huge difference in the image result in Midjourney. So, for example, if you want to have a portrait of a person, don't write that. You write the lens that is often used for a portrait mode. So an 85 millimeter Canon lens. I mean, that's the most typical.
You can do portraits typically with an 85 mm lens.
Yeah.
And then you can have crazy portraits where people have run a telezoom of 200
exactly.
and then doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
And this is a great portrait, but the feeling is very different in those two pictures.
No, exactly.
So if you're a photographer and knowing all this, I mean, like this is all the knowledge of creativity that really makes the prompt something else again.
I mean, you sound like a true prompt engineer expert. I mean, I can hear that you spend so much time prompting, and you probably know more about this type of labor, or whatever we call it, than most people. What do you think about the future? I mean, will prompt engineering be a job role in 5-10 years?
I think so. I've compared these tools to actually real cameras. We were talking before about the analog to the digital camera transition. I think now what we are seeing is a transition from the digital camera into generative AI image making. I think it's the same thing. Everybody has a phone with a camera built in, but not everybody are professional photographers or would even imagine selling their images to a client. So even if everybody now has sort of access to all these tools, not everybody will spend thousands and thousands of hours, learning how to actually prompt codes.
So I've said, famously, and I probably should regret this, but I said that prompt engineering will never be a job, and but I'm probably wrong. But the reason I was thinking that is that I think more you need to understand the psychology of AI models to be able to interact with it. So prompt engineering is one part of it, for sure. But what do you think? If you think 5 years ahead, will the technicalities of what word you put in the prompt be important, or will it be more about understanding how the model works and the psychology, if we call it that, of the AI model? And will that be more important, or what do you think?
I think you're right in a way that I think that everything will become more easy in a way, and the models and the tools and everything will sort of be more tailored and more professional. But in the end, I mean, great photography isn't based on what type of camera you have. It's based on sort of your creative ability to sort of create something, to imagine something before you actually create it, to have that need to sort of craft something. And I think that in the end is what's going to make it, whether you will make it with a camera, like a real camera, or a tool or anything. So prompt engineering will be, I think definitely that people will make a living out of it, because I also think that the tools will get more and more advanced, and sort of the prompt engineers will need to sort of learn that.
But I have an angle on this, because I think will prompt engineers replace, or will it be? I think it's very different if we are talking about pictures or Midjourney, and where we simply replace the camera, I'm a photographer, with an AI artist who uses a different type of tools to create the image. So in my opinion then, are you a prompt engineer, or are you the next generation photographer? So for me, that it could be relevant. If I take that into, how would that be in text, or how would that be in coding, right? So when we talk about prompt engineering, I think that's the wrong way of labeling it. I think it's like it's the next generation photographer or artist.
But what is the difference between photographer and prompt engineer in this aspect?
No, it's very simple. You're a photographer first, and basically you have the skills and understanding of how to compose a picture. You have a deep understanding of the different lenses. You know the profession as a photographer, and you have a creative mind. Because even if I know the photography technically now, my son does better pictures than me because he just sees them. Now, if in this sense, you can see them now and you can prompt it. So, you're the prompt engineer, but you're not an engineer. You're an artist who knows how to use your tool, regardless if it's a camera or if it's Midjourney.
And I think also that the AI or image generation tools and models of the future, there will be the simple ones to use. You just push a button or just say something, and they will produce something you like.
And then you don't need to prompt, almost.
And then it will be just
Adobe Firefly. Yes. We already had them.
And then it will. I mean, just as you have cameras on mobile phones, that simply you can just press a button and it works. But professional photographers have different tools, and they have the more advanced cameras, and you can do the slightly more things that the normal camera cannot do. And perhaps that will be the future of image generation models as well. You have the vanilla ones, everyone can use it, but then you have the more advanced one, and you really need to have special skills to be able to use them.
So you could argue then, yes, you're a prompt engineer, but you can also argue I'm an AI photographer or whatever, so.
Yeah.
An AI artist, I would say.
AI artist.
I think two things. It's very interesting. There is actually now an AI camera. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a camera without a lens that is so using geolocation. So you can sort of go out on a London street with the camera, take a picture, and based on sort of how you're holding it, you will get an AI generated picture. I think that's very funny.
Insanely cool.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody will use it ever.
But I haven't heard about that.
No, I just wanted to point out that when we're talking about photographer today, it's a person that actually takes a picture of what happens right now. If I take a picture of this is forever. It's you three talking. So we should just basically be very careful when we are using because I don't want to have the impression that photographers in the future, they will be replaced by prompt engineers. Because photographer first is actually taking a picture of what is happening right now.
No, for sure.
This is the angle, for sure.
Yes, and prompt generator and AI artists, their job is to shape something, to illustrate something that it's close to basically what is their impressions or expression at that point of time, which is two different things.
Yeah, but now, of course, also in the field of photo.
Yeah. So, for example, that picture behind there of the lady, that is AI generated and it's a beautiful picture, but it's not a representation of a person, right? So if you want to have Kate Moss and you want to take a picture that will live for 100 years of how Kate Moss was at this point of time that you cannot replace with AI.
But I think this needs to be explored deeper if you go down that route, because if you go to Fotografiska, like the
photo museum.
It's a museum. It's a proper photography museum.
Photography museum, right? You can of course have so many different variations of the professional photographer. You can be the journalist. You can be the one who keeps the moment, and then you can have people who are creative, like someone painting with a brush, and they are composing stuff, and they're really creating, and they're using lights, and they're doing different things to create crazy artist imagery that has nothing to do with I'm capturing the moment. Yes, you are, but you're also you're having idea of something you want to shape. So I think there's so many facets of what is a photographer even.
I think a wedding photographer will not be replaced by AI. I think sort of the whole discussion around replacement and generative AI is a little bit odd, because I think that there's no wish from anyone actually to sort of replace anyone. I think it's more about AI is unleashing more creativity to the ordinary man or woman, and it's democratizing the whole process around creativity, and that is what we should salute. If the way going forward is to use a traditional camera or an AI tool, that doesn't really matter. It's the end result, and to sort of enhance the vision of the future. The good thing, however, with AI is that it can actually change norms, create higher diversity. It can create sort of more complex and more creative sceneries for smaller brands. And it can make larger brands go into a more creative state of mind. So I think in the short term, it will make everything more interesting. In the long term, it would just be a new type of tool, and there will probably come a new type of thing that's even cooler than generative AI afterwards. Because I think looking back, we started, in the caves, and now we are at generative AI. So this is not the end of the road, and nothing will sort of be replaced. We're still doing paintings, even though we have computers. I heard this quote, which I think is really good, that a computer can always sort of make the perfect square. But no one is interested in the perfect square. Like, people want the genuine, the crafted human square. And I think the same goes with generative AI, that some of these tools are already, I think, showing that it's not interesting enough because the creativity just isn't there. But then some tools can actually enhance creativity and create something that we haven't seen before, and then we just immediately like it. Whether it's a camera or it's an AI tool doesn't really matter.
But where do we go from here? Because there's a couple of key topics we really can dig into.
Can we just finish off the whole production of this magazine and the single image show?
Yeah.
We spoke a lot about prompting, and I think a lot of people are interested in that, and it was really interesting to hear about that. But you also mentioned that there are a number of other steps. It's just not prompting. It's a lot of other steps necessary. Okay. And I'm sure you have some secret source that you don't want to divulge. But if you were to just briefly describe it,
for sure.
What is the process to...
Yeah. So first, I'm prompting it in Midjourney, and
does it start there, or does it start with a creative idea already?
No, my ideas comes to me, walking on the street, going to a museum, or just thinking about something. So the ideas comes to me quite randomly, which I think for everybody creative.
To do this, did you start with?
This is extremely good question. I have had the chance. I got a first copy. I got a copy of this, so I have been studying it. And actually, my daughter is studying now graphical design. So I thought, this is what basically you should be learning. It's not random what you're doing there. Everything has a thought, because if you look at their chapters, and there is a story behind it. So I think that what you asked right now, it was a very important question, because probably before prompt comes, you already decided, like almost like a writer, when they was like, okay, in this chapter this is going to happen. You have had thoughts before this.
No, for
like,
sure.
Okay, now we're going to talk about autumn.
Yes.
And it's going to be autumn in Paris, right?
Yeah.
And then, so let's start from there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Start from the beginning of the creative
Start from
process.
the beginning of the creative process. So I think what's amazing with AI is that the models that are trained are based on previous data. And what previous data can actually show us is what we have done right and what we have done wrong. And what we have done wrong, I think everybody's quite aware right now, that we have had too little diversity. And we have had a quite like stereotypical view of especially the woman body, but also men. And what I realized with the AI tools was that how I wrote it sort of gave me the same result all the time. It just looked as it always have been. So I really wanted to showcase that to people, to sort of say that this is what we have actually been doing. And I want to change it, but first we need to take a close look at it. So I think the red thread throughout the whole magazine is to sort of showcase how fashion has been looking and sort of what fashion has been representing for the last 30 years going back. So many of the stories are sort of inspired by the 80s, the 90s, some 70s fashion. Because it's also quite interesting that it's super hard to achieve a modern looking aesthetic with AI tools. So the magazine is a retrospect in that sense, that it's showcasing fashion, how it's have been looking. But then I also wanted to change the objective. So for example, there's a story within the magazine that is about Formula One, and I've been looking at Formula One for many years, and it's always men driving cars. I didn't even actually know that there is a Formula One for women. So so that was the first story that I actually did. So I just replaced men with women within the same sport, and it just felt so interesting. And that was a little bit like I was a little bit like provoked by that also, that just to sort of change from men to women made such a huge difference as it actually did, because we are so taught into that Formula One is a men's thing. And so I would say that all the stories are sort of inspired by that idea, that if we just replace something with, for example, a woman, then it becomes something new, and that is a little bit disturbing to me.
But it's interesting now, because then also you're playing to the strengths of AI and your own creativity, because sometimes some of these pictures can be quite hard to find in real life, but now you can actually I want to do a Formula One event and I want that feeling, but how would it look like? Exactly. So you could really take the creativity to get to a picture that is really hard to get to. Yeah. And I think, and also I was talking with a reporter on American Vogue, and she said that the magazine was a little bit disturbing in the sense that the fashion was so glamorous. And that was actually something that I made because I wanted to sort of portray fashion that is for the average man or woman, that is a little bit more glamorous and commercial in that sense.
I've said men, but I don't see any men in this.
No, exactly. The men will come in the next issue. There will be a lot of men. But so she was a little bit disturbed by that fact that the fashion wasn't interesting enough in her sense.
So she didn't like it was the glam feeling of it.
Yeah, she was like, has fashion been reduced to nothing? Like, is this where we are now? That is just flat, where it's just glamorous and it pops and it looks interesting. And
but this is this was copy number one.
This was copy number one.
Let's go with your.
But it was intentionally, because in working within fashion, which I have done now for 10-15 years, it's a very conservative industry, and we salute creative collaborations all the time with fashion brands and artists and so on. But I find those type of collaborations quite negative in that sense that we are we never really dare to speak our mind. We rarely try something new. We look at other campaigns and other artists, and we sort of replicate that. Look, now Acne has done this style, then we want to do that also. No one really dares to do something different. And I wanted to showcase that everything just looks the same. It's just a repetition, like an endless repetition of the same thing.
So in a way, the first copy magazine, you wanted to show them. Now I don't want this to be quirky. I want to not use that word, but beat us be in the normal game. Yeah. I want to show this exactly fair and square in the normal conservative collaborations, but don't stretch it too far. That was copy number one. You used to put the stamp on. It can be done, and now we can go crazy after that. But
the interesting thing is that is disturbing to many people. To be so close to reality was disturbing for example, for the Vogue editors, because they thought that this is just too close, it's uncomfortable, we don't really get it, like, why are you doing bad fashion, why is it not good?
Isn't that a good question and a good comment? It's actually a compliment. If she has is this what fashion has come down to?
Yeah, exactly.
You made it this way.
No. Which means like we are not talking about why are you using AI, why are you replacing us? Instead of that, they're saying like, I accept this, but why is the fashion so boring or whatever it is? And that is a compliment.
No, for sure.
But I really buy this idea because if you would have started the super quirky thing, you could have been sort of, that was fun. That was quirky. But now this becomes disturbing because it goes at the core of the industry. Yeah. So I can do that if I want to. Now I will show you what I can do. But don't make no mistake. I can do what you are doing now.
But I think my objective for this magazine, and that will continue on, that is to be on that thin line between what's real and what's not. Because I want to be there, because I want AI images to be a little bit disturbing and to challenge us in a way.
Do you ever go completely crazy, like completely non-realistic kind of images, you think?
I've done it like in training purposes, but I don't find it interesting in that sense. And the basic thing is that it's so easy. I mean, what's hard with AI is to actually make something that is what you wanted to make, to just create random chaos and creative weird stuff. I mean, just write anything down and it will give it to you. So it's sort of the opposite way. You know?
To be authentic or close to realism is actually one of the hardest.
That's super hard.
So we will take a short break here. We can continue with the because I have a lot of questions that are technical actually behind that as well. So we can continue.
Okay.
But before that, we can go with I guess it's the AI news, right? It's time for AI news, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
Awesome. Right. Yeah, so we have this kind of middle break where we take a short break and just speak about some recent news that happened perhaps in the last couple of days or a week. And we are supposed to give like one news story per person. Anyone that wants to start, or should I?
Please start.
So, okay, I chose a story that came up, I think, like yesterday. I think it's a really big thing, and it's really been overflowing my LinkedIn and other social media feeds just today. So there was a big AI safety summit where they had a big like global collaboration, which includes like China, US, Europe, and like 5 other countries or something, all coming together and trying to find out, how can we maximize the good of AI and potentially regulate or find legislation that will minimize the harm of AI. And I remember seeing the vice president of US that was there as well, Kamala Harris, and she for one gave a really awesome speech. It was so well rehearsed and awesomely professionally presented, and she spoke about a number of things. I disagreed with a number of things she said. She said something like should we be afraid about existential risks, etc. And then she gave, in a very like rhetoric kind of awesome thing, isn't this a existential risk, etc. But then she connected it to individuals. She said like, well, what happened if you have a deep fake that exposes your kid on social media? Isn't that an existential risk to your family? And then they said something like, if you have something that AI that produce a gun and they kill your husband, isn't that an existential risk to you, to your husband? And I think they are abusing the word existential. Existential is per definition not individual, I would say. But still, it was an awesome talk by Kamala Harris, and that was interesting. And what's really interesting is that they all came together, like China, US, Europe, and so many other countries, and that they also included tech giants. You know, we've been speaking about tech giants for a long time here, and that they have a big lead. And we speak about the AI divide, saying that the top giants like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon, and so many more, Meta, etc., are in such a lead and so valuable. So they are more powerful, I would argue, than most of the countries. And this really exemplifies this, because it produced the top countries together with the top companies.
At the same to talk about this, you needed to have the superpowers like China and US, but you also needed the superpowers in terms of some tech giants.
And then they, try to. We'll see what really comes out of this. But they spoke about the new term that I haven't heard before as well. They spoke about the frontier AI. So they didn't speak about AGI. They didn't speak about like foundational model or generative AI. They spoke about frontier AI. And that is a new term, and it could be interesting to think more about what that really means. I have to think more about if that's a good or bad thing, but it's new at least, and it's interesting.
So now we have generative AI, we have frontier AI, and we have real world AI as different people trying to put the label
human
on.
Level AI and narrow AI and so many different types of them.
But what are they trying to achieve by putting a label of frontier AI? Could you? Oh, this is what you need to look deeper into.
I have at least one quote that I wrote down because I couldn't memorize it. But to make frontier AI safe and to ensure nations and citizens globally can realize its benefits now and in the future. Sounds good. And then they, spoke about the number of risks, and they also spoke, the different type of risks it can be with AI. It can be, you can actually have good actors like Microsoft or Google or Midjourney and others that want to produce AI services that are for the good of the customers, but it can go bad, and it can be mistakes, and they can break laws by creating these kind of services, and that can turn out really dangerous for the society.
Yeah, it's interesting. Goran pulled up what is frontier AI, and there's a paper. This paper uses the government's chosen definition of frontier AI. So this is
yes, and it says like a highly capable general purpose AI models that can perform a wide variety of tasks and match or exceed the capabilities present in today's most advanced models. So it's not like they are avoiding here the term human or human
or
like. So it's
or
more
AGI
like,
or
yeah.
But I like this because it actually doesn't only focus on more general AI or generative AI. It's speaking about the most advanced models.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is good, actually.
Yeah. I think this is a good way of putting it as well, because as soon as you start using AGI, for people in the industry, it means something quite extreme, right?
And I think if you just use AI for autonomous weapons or something, I mean, that wouldn't be a general or generative AI.
But using frontier AI as opposed to, I guess, traditional AI or commonplace AI is a way to frame it. Interesting. Yeah.
Yep. And then they have these kind of 4 types of risks. It was the good actors going bad, or they could be the bad actors that intentionally using it to create a new coronavirus or biological weapons or whatnot. And then we have the whole agency kind of problem where AI takes control and you have the singularity and whatnot, and simply the social turmoil. And then they spoke about that and different ways to collaborate throughout the world and properly have a common agreed upon policy globally to fight with this. And I think it's good, because otherwise the problem is that if some country or a single company say, I will go responsible now, but then the competitor just focus on revenue, they will lose. So they need to have it both from a country global point of view, but also from a company shared view of how to fight this. So I think this is an amazing, surprising, and really good move.
I'll let you go first, Goran, because I'm afraid of stealing your ideas the whole time.
So I don't have one. I will do very short, actually, things, but it's around 6, 7, 8 of those. The first thing that was very interesting.
That was mine.
Okay, good. But then you take that one because I have other ones. First of all, AI was voted as the word of the year. So this is very big one. So based on how many people has been talking about it and has been Googling the word AI is now officially the word of the year by Collins Dictionary. So there it is. AI is the word of the year. Second thing, so Apple released their M3 chip, which is basically their response to the AI war that is going on right now, where basically so they have a new chip which will basically help many organizations and people that are working with Mac to speed up the process of AI innovation. Of course, with this, they are also creating a new ecosystem. So basically, people can innovate and with AI through Mac and Apple products. So this is very big. The French AI company Mistral, they just basically announced that they will be gathering another $300 million, which will put them on a valuation of $1 billion in total. So they are officially basically the European answer to ChatGPT or OpenAI.
So they are the biggest right now.
Yes, but there is an interesting twist to this. So the Germany richest man, do you know who it is?
No.
The guy who basically owns Lidl.
Lidl guy,
the supermarket.
Supermarket guy.
So now he has a foundation which is called like charitable foundation, which is called like Dieter Schwarz Foundation. So they are creating right now AI, what is called innovation park, that is aiming to take on the race with OpenAI and lifting the German LLM. It's called Aleph Alpha. To basically, so they're investing a lot of money over the next 10 years, making Germany actually one of the countries that will have, quite good large language models. So I think they are mostly actually not fighting with OpenAI here. They're fighting with the Mistral in France, but it's okay. Yeah. But I'm happy that we have more of this coming up in Europe. So this is quite nice, actually. So this is good. What else is new? Google add $2 billion to Anthropic. You remember in the last episode, we were talking about Amazon investing $4 billion in Anthropic. Google just basically did $2 billion in them as well.
So both Amazon and Google in Anthropic.
Yes, because they want to speed up the game and actually make sure they are on the right track with OpenAI and Microsoft and everything.
Yeah, so they actually go for they are putting money on the second one or whatever. Interesting.
The official thing is that basically it's urgency to innovate in AI along the Google own project, which is called Gemini, that we basically didn't have a chance to discuss over some episodes back. I'm waiting for Anders to start talking about it.
It's not released yet.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see how it's going to go. And ChatGPT released all the tools. So now you basically can upload PDF into ChatGPT and analyze it, which is completely crashing the whole PDF market, and it's making it much easier actually for people to work with it. One of the big things in ChatGPT, and if you have worked with that, is that you cannot paste a large amount of text. So, for example, let's say that this episode right now, I want to use the transcript to create a summary of it. It will be impossible because you will need to divide that into several sections in order to upload the entire transcript. Now, if I take the transcript, put it into a PDF, and then upload the PDF directly into ChatGPT, then I can get that.
So we found a way now around
yes,
this.
and it's a exciting thing to do, because this is going to speed up content marketing. And you heard me before speaking with my marketeers earlier. I'm looking forward starting.
And
this
with the
from
PDF,
Monday,
now you're getting very close to what is very normal work cycle for to get a PDF in the end and then upload that really speeds up.
It's going to speed up quite a lot of things, and I think we are going very quickly to a more effectivization and a hyper personalization of things. This was my news, so you can.
And now I take the one that I take one. So you have in Stanford the Center for Research on Foundation Models. And if you go to their webpage, you go in and you end up in what is called Stanford University Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, so HI. And they are now introducing what they call the Foundation Model Transparency Index. So they are basically trying to understand what is the level of transparency that you can have with the different large language models. And of course, that then becomes interesting in relation to, if it's more transparent, supposedly it's easier to use for, use in your company or in your public sector, because you have more understanding for what it really is, and that the less transparent it is it has its pros and cons. So they've done this transparency index, and you get a score, and the top score is of course Llama 2 with Meta. Then you have Bloom's, OpenAI GT4, and Amazon Titan Text in this little graph is sort of has the lowest score. So basically, this is a paper that you can find on Stanford University on the high side, and you can Google the Foundation Model Transparency Index. Foundation Model, so FMTI.
How can GPT-4 be so transparent? I don't understand it.
Well, obviously they have actually and there is a research paper of 200 pages. They have done the indexing on 100 different indexes, which basically, and it's written down, so you have it's divided on 30% on how the model was created. The second thing, the data, the transparency, and the risk of how the model was created. And the third one is how the functionality works and how you can use it. So
they have written basically nothing about how GPT-4 was created. So
but they have done their own research.
So the paper is quite
there is an index on that as well. How well the company has explained the model. That was one of the 30% as well. So
so the model really the transparency index is a score where they look at data, labor, compute, methods, model basics, model access, capabilities, risk, mitigations, distribution, usage policy, feedback, impact. So it's a bunch of different dimensions that they then put into an index, right? And and then in this paper they go into the scores, and they go into this how it really works and all that. But it's quite interesting, right? Because it points the picture at what I think is, if we want to be serious about this, we need to find ways to manage it and govern it, and we need to find ways of understanding pros and cons for going different routes.
You simply ignore it and say, I don't want to be transparent about this. I would love to see Apple up on this list. They will probably be in the last in the list.
They are smart. They will not do an LLM model. They will just use metas, and that's it. Let's go. All right, but that would be it, I guess. So that will be over. Yeah, let's go.
Did you have it?
Yeah, sorry.
No, nothing.
Anything? We talked about.
I can say that there's a lot of buzz right now about in Stable Diffusion. You have this video thing called Animate Diff, and people are really pushing Animate Diff now. So I think that I'm really exciting about it, but it's not like a news thing. But it will definitely change how we see content creating when it comes to video quite soon.
Will you go video soon?
I'm trying both Animate Diff and then also Runway too. They have this Gen 2 now, which is super powerful and very interesting. But I mean, it's still quite odd and weird.
Do you think it will be like Runway, like proper, like a fashion runway kind of videos being produced in the future? Or will it be... Why should you have a video of a runway?
I think that we should... reevaluate, like I think fashion collections is part of history, like it's part of how you did fashion. I think we're going to go to single pieces quite soon.
Now we have so many topics.
Yes.
But
should we just finish that?
I think we should finish the topic
Yes.
on the process, and
Good.
let's elaborate a little bit about on the human side of the process. That's what we, the idea, the concept, and all that. So let's finish that, and then let's go into really the tech side of the whole life cycle as well. But you started with the concept.
Yeah. So you spoke about the first creative process. What the story should be and the purpose for it, and then the prompting we've gone through as well. And you're certainly, I guess, one of the top prompting engineer experts that we have. But what is necessary besides that to really produce high quality images like in this book?
Yeah. So I think the thing with prompting is that, and with AI image generating, is that, and I really don't know why this is, but depending on what type of image you are prompting, you get different types of qualities. I mean, Midjourney, for example, it's roughly like 1,000 pixels to 1,000 pixels, so it's a low resolution, but the detail level within that resolution can vary
with
a lot.
The 4x upscale thing.
Yeah, no, this hasn't to do anything with that. This, for example, if you prompt a face of a person, you could sometimes that face is super detailed. You get the wrinkles, you get everything right in the skin tone. You get everything that's also is wrong, but what makes a face into a human face and not an airbrushed face. And I've never really understood when not that works or becomes something. But often when I'm prompting, I'm searching for those type of results when it looks ultra realistic. I mean, it must be something in the model. And I think it's also depending on the images that I'm sort of pointing at that has been trained. Are those high quality images or low quality images? Because I mean, the model is trained on something. So when I did this magazine, I really needed to sort of not only get the right image that I imagined myself, I also needed the highest amount of detail and quality in order to upscale it.
To print it professionally.
To print it professionally. Because the images that I'm prompting, they are roughly like 1,000 to 1,000 pixels. What I need to be able to print it is approximately 6,000 to 6,000 pixels. So I need to do an upscale of 6.
So how did you do that if it's not a secret? Because I have been...
Yeah, no, I mean, that is done...
That is a secret by itself, right? Because...
You can use so many different tools. I have like a secret blend with different tools, actually. You can, however, I mean, the most common ones are Topaz. Topaz are sort of the leader within the upscaling now, which is so interesting because if you look at upscaling from a historical perspective, this was something that was made in Photoshop, and I mean only like retouchers were talking about. Now upscaling has become like a business opportunity, something that people are talking about, and that is because the images are so low quality when you generate them. But with upscaling comes artifacts and also like the image will look more weirder than it was in the beginning. So what you have to do when you have upscaled something, you need to retouch it. You need to sort of make everything right again. Right. So it's almost like you need to look at the original Midjourney image and try to sort of make it into what it actually was. So
your blend here, I'm guessing, has some sort of Midjourney into Topaz into Photoshop.
Into Photoshop. And then what I also do is that Midjourney rarely makes a perfect image. So what I do is that within Midjourney, you can do versions. You can do versions with a high variation or low variation. And with the low variation, everything is sort of the same, but you have different details that vary. So for example, I mean, the common thing that we have that I think everybody knows now is that Midjourney creates 8 fingers or six fingers or 10 fingers, or everything is a little bit weird and off. And how you can correct that is that if you take different versions and then you sort of make like a collage, like the best of the best.
And then
so I have like
stitch
it together in the
so there is a process. There's an innovation process, but then there's a tool process here in order to go from a cool picture in Midjourney to something that really 6 by 6,000 pixels fits into
that I can print.
So how much time would you say? Because I heard the podcast that you were on the other day, and there was a lot of and it was interesting how much human effort was in every picture, because you use quite a lot of people, designers who were basically retouching all of these things and etc. So how much would you say it was time, labor?
No, I mean,
to generate one specific image.
Yeah, I think I used roughly 7 retouchers. We were working for 3.5 months, like part-time and full-time. But I would say each image is approximately 4 hours of hard work, like intense
and
work.
this is very interesting that because people, you know, when they see the result like this, and I mean, when you look at it, when you open the book, you can see that there is, like, if you have worked in Midjourney, you can immediately see, like, this is not Midjourney. Wait, this is something else.
This is something else.
And I think that people, when they will look at this and hold it in their hands, they will say, like, well, is this AI can do? Yes, it can, but it's not. It's only at the brush. But there is an artist behind it that actually spent 4 hours in creating that specific picture that you are just looking at it. And it's not simple process.
And I think this book speaks for the resume AI artist, because that's what it's all about. It's used because you have the tool.
I like that. That is really nice.
You don't have the creativity. You don't have the composition. You don't have the feeling. And here is the results, the quality. It's mind-blowing, right? And this is an AI artist. That's what they do. And now it's a blend of technique, understanding your toolbox, but also understanding how to use it, but then also having the vision.
Exactly. So I think that the whole process and the vision is the same as with all different tools. I mean, if we compare it to photography, which is very connected to, I mean, a photographer needs to have a correct light, whether it's natural light or a studio light.
Good example.
But also what I think we often tend to forget is that a photographer do a lot of retouching and a lot of post-production with their images, whether it's analog or digital photography. So the process, both in time, but also like in technical knowledge, is sort of the same. So clients think that AI imagery is sort of cutting costs and saving money. Yes, to a certain extent, that you maybe don't have to fly to Miami to make a summer campaign, but you have, in the other hand, a lot of hour post-production time that you might not have before, or you had some, but not to this extent. But
it's just another way.
It's just another way
to come to the end product.
Exactly.
But going a little bit technical or nerdy here. Okay, so if you look at this technical process, is a very standalone process tool by tool, or have you been able to sort of stitch it together in a systematic way, or making a stack out of it? Like, what's your system now? How would you describe your system?
So we have it's a blend of both, actually. I'm not so technical myself. I mean, I can take it to a extent, but not.
Well, I think that way. You already showed that. I think that you're proper.
But so I have some automation. I have some automations with different tools to sort of make the process faster. I would say an image goes through approximately six different tools. Different steps. I have AI tools that are anatomically correcting the images. So I have like tools that are looking at the images in a way that I even can't. Because the thing is that AI is always a little bit like weird and tricky, and everybody knows that looking at an image, you like it immediately, and it's quite hard to see if one eye is a little bit smaller than the other. And I mean, that could also be very human, because when we are symmetrical, we look like aliens. So I have tools for that even, and then I have tools for enhancement, sharpening, upscaling.
He's not going to tell us which tools. I hear him already.
And I use different, but I can actually tell you that I am using Stable Diffusion mostly, because in Stable Diffusion you have so many great tools that are built by other fans and people within the community. So often the best results comes from the open source world.
So you have a combination here of some of this open, like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and then you have a bunch of different open source hacks or tools of small.
It's a lot of duct taping here. I mean, it doesn't
How many
look
tools
pretty.
is it? Like a 6-step process?
Six different.
Six major tools that sort of makes up the process.
Yes. And then I do like the image selection first in Midjourney. Then some images sort of I will throw during that 6-step process. And then when they come to retouch, I might throw some images away. So, I mean, looking at the whole process, like first I have this vision, I am prompting. A lot of ideas gets thrown away and then during the 6-step process and then in the retouch. So in the end, producing, I think the magazine consists of like 420, 430 pictures. We're talking about like maybe 40,000 pictures behind that because sometimes it looks good, but then when you start sort of stitching it together in Photoshop, you just realize that it's impossible. I can't.
I mean, I see the time is flying away as well. And I'm thinking
we have a lot of things to cover, so let's speed it up.
Yes.
But maybe that's that. So in summary, there is a conceptual, it's a normal creative director process going on, and then there is a 6-step technical process from idea to sort of sharpening to get to print level copying, and then basically, what was the process of getting it to a book? Because this is you're creating your own company. How did you do that? Did you go to someone to get it done? Or how does that work?
So I have my own company, so I sort of created the magazine within that company and within that creative studio that I already own, and I have the network of great newspaper graphic designers who made the layouts for me. I did most of the writing myself together with ChatGPT actually. But one story that is quite funny is that the images were then crafted with different AI tools. I didn't mention any fashion brands or fashion houses, but I was curious when I was going to write the credits, because first I wanted to sort of try to connect the magazine and the pictures to actual brands. So within Google you have the image search. And the image search is basically like an advertising tool, basically, because when you upload an image with clothing on, then Google Ads refers to actual clothes from different brands.
That looks similar, or is
that looks similar? So I mean, it's an interesting tool, and I didn't use that tool I used that tool to sort of see if my AI creations were similar to real fashion brands.
Yeah, and what was how good? There's a lot of stuff that basically got hits.
Yeah. So I got a lot of hits. Nothing was like exact. Nothing was even close to exact replicas. But I had an assistant, and she took all the 430 images, put it in Google, made a spreadsheet, and just pointed. And all the images I could refer to different brands. But then I took these with a legal friend of mine, and he said, no, don't do it, because you haven't mentioned mentioned the brand in the prompt. So why sort of try to make the brands angry?
Exactly. You did it the right way, but all the brands would think you had cheated.
They would think that I would cheated. So
what do you think it would have happened if you?
I don't know. I was so scared. The thing is that my name is only mentioned once in the magazine, and many people have said afterwards that. But this is such a great magazine. You should brag about it more. And why is your name only in the credit? And I said that I was quite anxious and quite afraid during the whole process because I didn't sort of know who will sue me here. Is it the photographers? Is it the fashion brands?
So have you got any?
No.
I have a question. So when did you start thinking about can I do this from a legal perspective?
I just felt so eager and so. I just wanted to do it, so I didn't think about those
So
aspects.
you think about so then basically probably before publishing it, because you need to you're charging for this, right? So if you charge for it, basically you need to also I have IP for this,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So how did that process?
I am relying on ChatGPT's legal text in the magazine, actually.
You got the legal tip from ChatGPT.
I was very, very clear with ChatGPT that I don't take any responsibility. that I have followed the rules.
That's so funny. How sure are you that this prompt is good? Yes.
No. But I think actually the legal text in the magazine is on spot. It really,
So I used the best lawyer. I got ChatGPT to really get me out of any holes.
I should get you in touch with a lady actually, just for you to have she was on this podcast before because she's into research into this as well, and
super interesting.
So it's a good to have it's a good person to have around when you're preparing for the next ones as well.
But the funny thing is that so I did just to end that credit thing. The credits are made in ChatGPT also. I asked ChatGPT to sort of create fashion brands. It took hours and hours and hours because ChatGPT often just brings you like these very cliche names of what a fashion brand could look like.
So you have some names for fake brands.
Yeah. So when sort of fashion people are looking in the magazine, many of them has given me the response afterwards. Like I looked at the magazine and I was so curious. Like these are brands that I don't know of. So I had to Google like what have I missed. And then they realized that all the names were just fake and the models are too. But everything is.
But it's fantastic. Right, that's good. That's like a
All right, so now you're taking this to a print shop, and now you're printing it, and now you need to
sell it.
Disseminate.
Yeah, so I have a distributor in
so
French.
how did that work, and how is it going so far? So
yeah, exactly. So we were talking before about similar magazines. So in most magazines, if you look at the end, sort of the credit page, you can actually see what this distributor they have. So many of the international fashion magazine has one a French this distributor. So I just called them up and I said that I'm gonna do this fashion.
So this was not ChatGPT made up.
This was not.
So this is when you stepped up to the
So
real
now
game.
I'm calling like a 50, 60-year-old French conservative man who has no experience with AI, but I'm very convincing and saying to him that you need to really.
But you still want a physical book then? Why not just online?
Because I think that this is where it becomes interesting. Like we need to put AI into a physical context. We need people to sort of see it within the real world because that is how I see it. I see this as an extension, and I think.
But there is a digital version, right? Or
no,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
this is a physical thing.
I need to hear this story with the French conservative guy, because in the end, you were pitching me on the phone, I assume, and he was like skeptical and said,
he didn't even know what AI was. So.
Yeah, so basically, I need to show it to you. You need to see it, and then you will be.
I convinced him on that same phone call. I mean, basically, a distributor don't take that much risk. I'm taking all the risk. I mean, it costs a lot of money to print a magazine like that. So, and I think he believed in me, and also I think he believed in sort of my vision of making fashion magazines relevant once again, because they have seen a decline when it comes to selling these magazines.
Did he give you, what was his response or feedback when he got the feeling and saw it? He was like,
so he just asked me to write like a pitch deck, and they took that pitch deck to I think 40, 50 countries, and 25 countries came back and said that this is cool. So we have a distribution. Yeah. So all the way from Shanghai to Mexico.
Which one is your best market so far?
The US by far. Germany. And in Germany, the magazine sold out on all locations within the first week, I think.
What's the price?
It's 30 euros. In Sweden, it's 400 kroner, but it's different in different.
But so basically, and where do I go? And if I want to buy copy, a copy of copy, huh?
You can order it from the different stores. Many of the stores has like online
So which one is the physical distribution in Sweden?
Paper Cut. Yeah, it's a magazine store on Södermalm in Stockholm that only focuses on international fashion or design magazines.
And not sold out yet?
Sort of, basically, yeah. We're doing restocks after restocks because they sell to the whole world now.
So you do marketing in some way? Or?
How many copies have you sold so far?
We have sold...
If not secret.
Yeah, we have sold approximately... The volume was 10,000 and we are, I think, around 9,000 now.
And were you... believing that that would be an easy sell?
No.
Or has this gone over?
Traditional magazine selling is you throw more than 50%. I mean,
so this is fantastic.
Over distribution. This is fantastic.
So your distributor is happy with you?
I hope so. It takes like 8 months for the selling reports to come back, but what I'm basing my predictions are that I get a lot of requests now from the different shops from all over the world where they are selling. Please send us more magazines. People want to buy.
So this has been this is cool, right? This has happened.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I mean, I thought that I would get publicity, but I didn't think that I would get sales. So what I'm really curious about is actually that I've gotten sales.
You got more sales
from people who I get so many emails a day from people asking how they can buy it, and I realized that I am now introducing them to something new, to a whole world of different magazines
that they didn't know.
No, exactly, which is super interesting.
Explain to me the moment when basically you were done with this, and now finally the first copy is going for sale.
So you mean like when I found the ID?
No. So now you have done all of this.
Yeah.
Now we are done slowly. You have the copy and everything else. You have the first copy in your hand.
Yeah.
And now it's basically you are releasing it on the market. You're pushing the.
This is when you're popping the champagne. Yeah.
Tell me about that feeling.
I think
where were you at that point of
emptiness
time?
or happiness?
No, I think the boring thing with me is that I wasn't like excited by it actually. So I don't even know what I did. It was more of a process for me. I enjoyed making it more than I have been, releasing it.
You're like me.
Good answer.
So that is good. All right. So how long was it between the release date and some of the big fashion giant calling you like, this is not possible, or like, oh, this is so cool?
Have you got
half a year?
Half a year.
So you have responses. Okay, so let's now switch into the fashion industry.
Yes.
What has been the response in the fashion industry? Like this, like all with Gore?
Skepticism and a lot of interest, I would say. The thing with generative AI is that it's creative, it looks good, it's marvelous in so many ways. But the fashion industry, they are now looking at how can we actually get our collections within this world. Yeah. So here, Midjourney becomes nothing. Here, I need to rely on stable diffusion and do my own model trainings. So I'm focusing much more time on stable diffusion now, so that I can tailor generative AI to become more commercially workable.
All right, so let's go into this, because here we went bananas on the actual
list.
We
will go like 2+ hours soon.
No, we are going very quickly. It's like I've noticed this. It's been 13 minutes and we are really going really nicely.
No, but I
give us another 10 minutes and then you can go to the.
Yeah. But the 10 minutes now, we are flipping this from the first experiment, going now more and more commercial and connecting it back to the brands. And then in practical terms, you need to kind of go out of Midjourney where you are stuck in your own creativity.
Yes.
Now stable diffusion is helping you more, because now you want to be creative, but you need to stay within the brand. So could you explain this whole, what do you mean and what is it that you're doing, and how can you now take this back to the brands?
Yeah, so I think basically for people who don't know, you can do large model trainings and you can do small model trainings. And we're not talking about fashion models, we're talking about technical models with images. So for example, if I want to create an image with a specific red dress from H&M, for example, then I need that dress and I need plenty of pictures of that dress from different angles. Best way is if someone or something is sort of having the dress on it, so you can sort of see how it's shaping, and then you upload all these images and you sort of point the model to what it is, that it's a specific product within fashion. And when you have that model, then you can use that model with other models, and you can create a fashion image with that red dress, for example.
So here we now take
but we're still early on. So I would say that this sounds quite easy, but it's really hard. And these models often get quite weird looking.
Because you have a technical team, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't talk about it. How big is the company? How big is your team, technical team?
Yeah, so I have approximately a network of 7 different retouchers. I have 2 that I'm working really, really close to. And then I have technical team that I sort of buy hours of the development from. Right. So I'm building a small and effective team as of now.
So the core commercial angle here is that, okay, you get approached by brands and we have our new collection. This is the garment. Now I want you to do brilliant images with this garment in crazy settings, as an example. And now you need to model the garment, and then you can model the garment in a context like a Formula One setting.
So here it becomes tricky, actually, because Midjourney is so different from all other tools that it has this brilliant interpretation of reality, different styles and eras, and so on. It's very inspirational, and it really differentiates itself from an artistic viewpoint from Stable Diffusion, which is much more technical. So since I'm doing the model training in Stable Diffusion, the tool, like the creativity level, isn't as high. So here I am still quite limited. So I would say that I can do amazing like lookbook shots, just a person against a backdrop or something, quite like generic fashion images. But if we are looking at the images that you can see in the magazine, Stable Diffusion is much harder to sort of create those type of images.
Can you just elaborate a bit more? How does model training in Stable Diffusion work?
So what you do is that what I do is that I use Google Drive, and then I have these pre-written sort of scripts. So what I do is that I upload a bunch of images. I type some sort of description into what it actually is. Then I also need to name the model into sort of like a prompt, like a keyword, for example. Because when I'm writing my prompt later on, then I need to point at the model. So I need to sort of name it into something. So if I would do a model of a red dress, then I would maybe name it red dress. So then it sort of has a name. Then based on what type of model training tool I'm using, it takes a couple of 10-30 minutes for the model to be done. And then I have this file that weighs around 2 gigabyte or something. And now I can use it in Stable Diffusion with other types of models.
So you upload basically that model to Stable Diffusion and you use it to generate new images, and you can simply tag the prompt to use this model. Exactly,
tagging. Yeah, correct.
Cool.
And the thing now is that with Stable Diffusion, because many people are saying to me that the faces in the magazine are a little bit doll-like, that the skin and everything is so perfect. And within Midjourney, they have actually issues with that, like beauty is too enhanced, it's too perfect. In Stable Diffusion, on the other hand, you can really like tailor the end result. So you can get much better skin tone, you can get much more realistic people faces. And Midjourney also had, we were talking about legals before and sort of how you can use AI in a bad way. And Midjourney has sort of tried to limit now, so you can't do nudity or even skin. So, for example, if you type in Midjourney that you want a man to have bathing shorts, you can't prompt naked torso even. So people in Midjourney are always they always have clothes on now. Within Stable Diffusion, you can actually do that still. So that also makes it into a more interesting tool, because I'm not there to create nudity or create anything that is offensive. But I think it's very limiting in Midjourney as of now that you can't even create, people wearing robes or anything like that.
Even a bikini, or is
no?
That was not the case in the before. I mean, you can see the reason why they're doing it, but in the same time, if you're creating a product that should be as imaginary as that, I think that limitation is also might be the negative.
And they have these discussions.
It limits imagination. Then what is the purpose of the tool? Yes,
exactly. And I think that they had these discussions within Midjourney because they were really open about it. Like first they were disturbed with some of the content that was created, and then they asked the whole community about are we to allow the female body or the male body, and many people said yes, like we shouldn't limit it. It's still our body, and we should sort of aim for creating an image that is not as perfectly and as polished. But I think now when Midjourney has grown into this huge company, they are, I think, really afraid of bad publicity and bad examples.
I think that even in the beginning, when you started prompting, for example, a female I don't know, like a warrior from 1500s or something like that, it will always give you this, beautiful hair, almost like a perfect shaped body. If
the
there is
Amazon.
No, but it's always like, so let's not get into the details because we're going to get into a rabbit hole. But in general, it depicts a perfect body to some sorts, let's say. So you need to put quite a lot of effort in order for you to get a realistic body, almost. And if you look at it, even the images of the faces and etc., they are divine.
Yeah, but getting a realistic body, actually, it's so interesting. Do you know this sort of character Karen in America? If I'm referring to like a female Karen, then it's like a older white privilege lady that sort of screams at everybody.
You can prompt this, and
if you prompt Karen in Midjourney, it creates a super realistic old female with wrinkles and bad fashion and bad teeth and everything. But if you just prompt like an old lady that is not perfect, then you get a perfect lady.
But it's such a great example that
so it builds upon references.
What we are talking about, like the AI is not biased, it's the people basically behind it, because it's trained on pictures, right? Yeah. And it's a embodiment of our aspirations, of our fantasies, of our work, of our thoughts and everything that we are doing. So that is what it is. So but there you go.
I think we should sort of, we are almost already running up until 2 hours.
I have one more question and then you can go. So the good thing, so I was looking at this and what I'm hearing from you, for example, let's say company X, H&M or Zara, etc., they come to you and say like, hey, we have this garment. Can you do something out of it? Which is very traditional way how to think about it, right? So when I was looking at it, I said like, shit, this is going to disrupt the entire fashion industry. Why? Because if you look at those pictures, makeup artists can try to mimic that. And that might be basically the fashion for this year. The hairstyle, can that be pulled off in a real person? So you can actually, the picture can be an inspiration for a new movement and style in fashion. Some of those, although maybe similar to garments that already existed, they're not identical. They are actually tweaked and in some cases extremely beautiful.
What's the question?
But there is no question. It's like how many companies basically have come to you and said like, hey, can we produce let's say a garment out of that. Right.
So I get a lot of requests from different companies. Many companies I actually have to turn down because their expectations of the technology is just so far away still, and I only want to produce like really good material. I've done some campaigns. I often say to the clients that don't come to me with a creative idea. Let's discuss the tools, the limitations, how it works, and then create something new that is sort of where the tool is sort of customized.
Exactly, because if you're thinking in the old way and projecting that into the tool, that's not the right way to be creative.
No.
Let's understand the creative boundary.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is lift and shift.
Because I have some small actors, some small fashion brands that are calling me and say, we don't have the budget to go to Maldivina and New York and so on, but could we create AI images? So you get our clothes and you just prompt the clothes in these environments. And I say, I could, but I don't think it's going to be so good. And I think that you have sort of misunderstood the whole thing with AI. Like it's not a replacement tool, as
not
I said
lift and shift
before. This is something completely.
But my
new.
question was, that is also the traditional way. So let's say I look at that picture, I want to buy that dress that you have there. Have you had like requests like, where can I find that dress to buy it, or somebody to produce it for you?
But I think right now you have AI fashion weeks, and you have a huge industry of like AI fashion. So we already have different players trying to create new production methods where you can actually create single pieces. I know that the company Revolve, which is a fashion company, they are now, I know for the next AI fashion week, they're gonna produce the winners' collections.
But I think this is actually where I was trying to go out now into a larger sort of more meta macro philosophical topic. So if we follow this trend, and I think you segued yourself into this, like where are we going with fashion in this sense? Because you said it before, we're going away from collections to one piece.
To pieces, yeah.
What do you mean with that? It's like you can basically...
Yeah, I think we need to sort of rethink how we see personal style and fashion. I think it's going to be much more customized and tailored in so many levels. My son is 11 years old and he's playing a lot of Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox and so on. He's really used to sort of creating his own universe and his own space.
His own avatar.
And he's not so interested in brands. And I think how brands are sort of trying to dictate personal style. So I think the only way going forward for larger brands now or brands in general is to let the users create their collections within their world, of course. I mean,
you'll get a completely different relationship with the brand.
Yeah,
a co-creation.
I think so.
A co-creative relationship with the brand.
Yes, and I also think I saw this. China and Asia hasn't been a big player within the fashion world, but I saw now that they had this fashion show in China with sort of like a futuristic inspired collections. And it's not my personal style, but it looked so good. Like I've seen European designers trying to make futuristic fashion, and it doesn't look like futuristic fashion. It looks like sort of how we would imagine futuristic fashion. But these Chinese designers, they are so far away from us and our aesthetic that their sort of view on futuristic fashion looks like futuristic fashion. It's not good looking, but it looks futuristic. So I think that maybe my son will buy Chinese futuristic fashion brands more than I think he would go and buy Gucci or Prada.
But before we had some, you said some, we should talk about this and this before the show, going a little bit about this, what is fashion and what is the individual? Like, could you take that? That was a really good question, Anders.
I mean, I think, AI has impacted so many different industries, everything from, the more entertainment businesses like music or movies, etc. And perhaps that is an interesting analogy, or I'm not really sure if it's a proper one, but if you think about music and like Spotify, it really transformed, how music was consumed and distributed as well. And then you could have personalized playlists instead of manually created. This is what you should listen to. This is the top list. This is,
this is the AMI Records big boss, and he tells you what you should listen to.
Exactly.
And so everything became more personalized in some sense. And I guess fashion could be that in the same way. I guess fashion today is mainly driven by a few set of old guys.
No, how is it driven? Is that true?
I think fashion is driven by, are we talking about fast fashion or fashion? I think fast fashion is driven by production, because in order to sell cheap clothes, you need to produce high amount of quantities.
So fast fashion is
and
H&M,
the business model is also
high
very
couture kind of things
that's the same as it has been. I think couture is actually more relevant to today.
So fast fashion is this like the Sarahs and the H&Ms and stuff like that? Who they can be very, very sensitive. They can spot a trend on a trend week in New York, and then they can flip that.
Sarah can, yes.
Sarah can in like 8 weeks or something like that.
I think H&M have 6 months or something.
Yeah, but Sarah is, I heard like 8 weeks.
Yeah, they can.
4.
But do you think that people will basically, if we compare it to music, I mean, I think the consumption pattern and the experience was changed drastically, but not really the generation of music, not yet at least in music. No. But for fashion, I mean, and your work is really the creation part of the fashion. I guess the consumption also could in a futuristic way be that, but given that you have a physical book, it seems like you have the opposite situation compared to music. You actually create new type of fashion, but in the style of traditional distribution.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So say that again. You are creating a new style, so you're generating, but then you need to get it into the production system still is what it is.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, AI won't change how we produce clothes, but I think it would change how the quantities are looking. And I think what's negative with fashion now isn't that we are producing clothes, it's the amount of clothes. We are overproducing. So
we have consumerism. The problem is that we are doing so much that it actually ends up on the garbage bin.
Exactly.
Because we are doing so big
it's part
runs.
of the whole business model. So we will see, I think, in the future, fashion on demand based on two factors. The one factor is, and I think it's the strongest, that is that I think the audience of tomorrow want to have personalized outfits, and they want to they are used from now and going forward to sort of personalize themselves with other different tools. So I think fashion is just waiting for that revolution. And on the other hand, I think that now also we have those types of tools. I mean, the AI enables us to actually create clothes, even though we don't know how to make clothes. So the AI can really accelerate that transformation.
But here we have some mega trends that could potentially be a AI for good and very, very, very positive. Because I was thinking about we should get into a debate. Okay, now with AI fashion, you're speeding up the productivity or creativity. Are we going to increase consumerism? Are we going to increase the big sustainability problem we have with the fast fashion industry, where there is this alarming pictures of how much clothing is in this big giant mountain in Africa, right? But what you are saying is quite interesting, because if you're going for personalized, just in time, on demand, we actually just going to produce the stuff that we're going to sell. So in a sense, the problem is not fast fashion. The problem is fast fashion and all the shit that doesn't get sold.
Exactly.
And
I would say that.
And then of course the other problem is in fashion when it's this like you need to feel like you need a new T-shirt every new color every. I mean, like personally, I've been going the other way around. I love my icons. You know, if it's a Converse shoe, if it's watches or whatever, stuff that sort of never really goes out of fashion, or it's always cool. Personalized is something else here. It could go more in this direction, I think. That is, it becomes your brand. It becomes your...
Exactly. And I think it enables brands to customize classics also. So I think if the fashion brands would sort of embrace the technology that exists today or tomorrow, they will get higher sort of conversion rates
Where are you going to be in 5 years? I mean, I was surprised to hear that you are still distributing in physical books, for example. I mean, you could start trying to automate the whole creative process and having that, being personalized, etc. Or there are so many different ways that you could.
But I think, looking at the technology, for example, I'm super inspired by the Apple Vision, the glasses that you put on. But I'm also very worried that we're going to sort of end up in this, weird world with only having glasses on us. I am producing this magazine. I think I always will produce physical things, because I think when we take off our glasses, we want to have a beautiful home. We want to have beautiful things that surrounds us. And I think that we are humans, like we are physical blood and meat. And I think we want to have tactical things around us also. So I think that the sort of the whole metaverse and Apple Vision, they will create so much magic for us as humans, but we need to sort of take off the glasses sometimes, and then we want our world to be as creative and as beautiful within that space also. So for me, I'm not sort of envisioning a world in sort of virtual reality. I want to have a mix of both, and I want to produce content for that world. more.
So you think in 5 years it will still produce in physical reality?
I hope that.
What is your thought on the Adobe's project Primrose? You know the changing design cloth that they
that the presenter had.
Exactly. So Adobe basically on the latest, I think it was like what is called one of these events that they have. They introduced this. The presenter has a dress. Which basically can change in a second, like the patterns and the designs of it and etc.
It's some like image on.
You haven't seen
projected?
this?
No, I haven't seen it.
I will show you. It's awesome. So it's called Project Primrose. So they have been working it in secret for a long time. But what is your thought?
No, I think it's very funny because here the tech world meets the fashion world, and in the fashion world we have seen these types of creations. I mean, not exactly this type of technical creation, but we have seen the creation of interactive clothing from 60s, 70s up until now. So that's nothing new. So I'm following a lot of like fashion bloggers, and they are making fun of this thing now that sort of the tech world has sort of discovered fashion because and they are just they're just giving example after example, like fashion shows in Paris from the 80s when the models had these weird transitions and everything changes and so on. I mean, it's super cool, but this is not fashion. This is one-offs, and I think that it might be the case that we can end this huge production thing with fast fashion. That if we can buy a T-shirt, then we can just click a button and it will become red or black.
But here you have the tech. This is the tech industry's take on it, and they're trying to make a product out of it.
Yeah, but it's not fashion. This is show off. I would say.
Well, so if you remember in the movie Ready Player One,
I mean, you can't even see her. You can't even see the back. So I mean, it's so. Imagine going to a nightclub in that. I think we're quite far away from that.
I think that many people
imagine
wear that.
high production of that.
No, the back you can see actually the back that is only a textile.
Okay.
No. So you can see it. So it's basically
there's nothing fancy in the back.
No, there is nothing fancy in the back.
It's a big laptop.
I also love that they have.
It's a big laptop. Yeah.
I think also the whole framing is so not fashionable. She's standing behind the projection of Comic Sans, which is like the most ugliest font. Typical. So I mean, the whole thing is also like the whole surrounding is so happy.
Now you can see it in the back.
This is tech. It's not fashion.
Right. So it's a no-go for me.
Well, but the font is giving it away. This is not fashion. This is tech.
But we can laugh now. But basically, that doesn't degrade the point that they are on a verge of something. And imagine if you can actually have like almost like a body shaped what is called like a futuristic thing that you can actually change how it looks like, etc. And it's connected with the glasses, because in the glasses world you can actually change how you look like.
And I saw that Ray-Ban now has these.
I have now.
Did you buy the Ray-Ban?
I bought the Ray-Bans in Australia. They were not legal here in Europe, so now they can release it. But I bought in Australia.
I checked them out when we were down there, but I didn't buy them.
I bought them and
useless. What are you going to do with them? It's fun. It's gimmick.
I just bought them, but in any case, they didn't work in Europe because of privacy.
Oh, really? That's right.
So they are connected with Meta. App, and at that point of time that was not and I bought them like 6-7 months ago. The app was not you couldn't download it in Europe, but now they have. So it's only 13 or 14 countries in Europe that you can have it, but it's a huge privacy issue.
Okay, but Anders, take us away to the last more macro philosophical angles if you want to. Otherwise, I'll do it. I'll let you do it otherwise, and then I think we are going to the last couple of topics here.
Should we do the AGI thing? Okay. So you're super into AI, of course, and great to see that you're working with the latest type of generative AI techniques. And let's assume that AGI will happen in 5, 10, 50 years. That can be two extremes to this. One can be the dystopian Terminator kind of style where we have existential risk and AI will kill us all when they take control. Or it could be the utopian one that Elon Musk and other partly speaks about at least, which is the utopian world of abundance. AI will help us produce energy for free. We have clothing, we have food, we have energy, everything can be provided. We don't really need to work. We can if we want to, but we don't really need to. Which one of these do you think will happen? And do you think, what time frame do you think that will potentially happen in?
Yeah, I think the only way going forward is the last one, of course. And I believe that also strongly, because I think what AI is actually enabling us now is that it is, as I said before, democratizing. It's democratizing everywhere it actually touches on. And I think what's have been wrong with this world and which with our societies is that we have had this hierarchy with sort of the power high up and then the people down here. And I think the people now will get more in power and take more control of the world and the societies. So I definitely believe in that vision more. I'm not afraid of AI. I think that AI needs always to have an input. The fear of sort of robots that will kill us. I mean, we still need to produce them. I mean, we need to have metal. We need to go down to the mines, and of course, we could have robots for that also. But I still really strongly believe in the input factor of AI, that people need to put something in. And of course, AI will. I mean, there will be a time when AI can sort of make that in themselves. But then we will be in charge of that transition also. So I have a very optimistic view on AI and how it will shape our societies. I think that we will work less, and I think that we will produce more. I think it will hopefully erase, sickness and starvation and bad things. And I think that it will hopefully bring people closer together. And I know the vision, for example, the generative AI, the founder David Holtz of Midjourney, he's talking a lot about just the impact that he sees with Midjourney, that people from different countries and different religions are meeting up in these new aesthetics and visions and sort of creating together. So hopefully AI will break barriers and sort of bring us closer together.
Sounds like a beautiful future.
I hope so. It's the only way going forward.
And
let's hope it happens soon.
And what's the future of creativity?
The future of creativity is more creativity, I would say. I hope that we're out of this endless repetition once and for all soon. I mean, we are only repeating the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, and they're going around.
The creativity is quite limited because we're really going in a rut.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even envision the 2000s or the 2010. I mean, I can't vision those decades into something particular. So I'm hoping that AI will sort of make 2030 to 2040 something new that can really make a mark, make a stand.
So we're not repeating itself. So like you said, when we are trying to do future fashion, we can't. But if I put the Chinese aesthetics and they were completely flipped out, and now it felt new.
Exactly. But I also think that that is in the long run. I think in the short run, unfortunately, we will have so much more creative noise. Like people will create just crazy amount of material. So I think with social media and everything, we will get so much, and then everything will sort of come down, and we will sort of,
because we will get a lot of garbage out of this.
We will. We are already getting a lot of garbage.
So last question. And we usually ask the question, what's next in your life? I'm gonna tweak a little bit. What's the next copy in your life? What's your plan now? Copy 2? And
yes, copy 2.
Where are you going from? And when can I buy it? When can I buy it?
Yes, it will be released in February, May, depending on where you're living. I know now you have
Can you give us a scoop?
No, I can definitely give you. It's about men. It's about men ruining the world.
The concept is men ruining the world.
Almost. No, okay, I really want to beat myself up. I'm so sick and tired of all the privileges I've had in my life. I'm so sick and tired of men just ruling the world, and I want the magazine to be disturbing in so many ways.
So it's men ruling or ruining?
Ruining. Ruling and ruining. I can actually, one story that I'm working on right now is actually old men sleeping. They have just fallen asleep in different places. It can be on restaurants, in their offices, on their streets, and it's very so touching fun. Because I'm not killing them. I'm just saying, fall asleep where you are. We don't need you anymore.
But it sounds like you're going from fashion to partly more into art.
It is.
And perhaps also politics.
It is.
You want to
but I think fashion is all those factors. Designers are often inspired by art and society and politics. Fashion is a part of politics in that sense that it reflects the current time. So I still think that it's a fashion magazine, but I think it's more of a fashion magazine that are reflecting on the world as I see now.
I love this because, and to me, this is not so far away from Egoist or like the Swedish Icon or a couple of other magazines. Like we have Icon. Like, okay, they have more editorial pieces, but it's a statement piece to some degree. And of course, you're going to weave in fashion and what they're wearing and all that kind of stuff, but you can be highly political at the same time.
And I think what's going on right now with the economy and the war and conflicts and everything, the magazine is sort of self-reflecting on that also.
But it's going to be a cool contrast to the first one.
It will be the complete opposite of what you have seen.
And then it's going to be the second AI fashion magazine in the world because no one's going to beat you to the punch for the second one either. You're not going to have any competition.
No.
I think that's the perfect ending.
Great. Thank you very much, Carl-Axel Wahlström. It was a true pleasure and far too long podcast that we were planning for. But
thank you so much.
We have
for inviting me.
I love it.
But it was so interesting discussions, and I hope you can stay on for some after discussions as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Carl.
Thank you.